All right, in this video, we're going to look at correcting color cast. And what is color cast? Well, color cast is the idea that your image has sort of this predominant color that shouldn't be there. And so that affects, your whites aren't truly white, your blacks aren't truly black, and of course your grays are also affected as well. And so this one, as you sort of look at it, it has this sort of yellowy look. Like if I look at this, this looks like it should be white. It definitely has a yellow tone to it. Her skin tone is off. Blacks are a little hard to see, but even in the blacks, there's definitely some yellowing there as well. So what we're going to do to fix something like this is use the curves. Now, first thing, my one is a little bit maybe different than yours at the moment. I'm just going to make sure that I can see my properties panel. So on here, the properties is there. Oh, there it is. It's just sticking off to the side. Sorry, I didn't even see it. So window, properties. Okay, and I'm just going to try to dock it in here if I can. There we go. Okay, and so there's my properties panel in there. That's probably what yours looks like already. Just one thing, if you ever mess things up really good, you can always go back to workspace and then sort of reset the essentials, and that should get everything back to normal. So the adjustment layer we're going to use, and you might have experimented with before, is a curves. And initially it looks a little scary. You see this thing called a histogram with the varying degrees of black and white. And this line that goes across from diagonal here from the bottom left to the top right. Basically, this point over here represents the blacks, okay? And this one represents here the whites, and then in here is all sort of the gray in between. You can kind of see that in that gradient. And this line here represents, you haven't, the sort of whatever it is, the image as it is. If you click on it, okay, you can create these points, and then you can pull it down, which sort of decreases the amount of whiteness, or pull it up to increase it. Okay, and so it goes in between. And you can create multiple ones, okay? So pulling this down and doing a variety of different things, all right? And you can see this input and output changing. Don't worry too much about it. If you're not happy with it, just reset it like that. You can also separate out the red, greens, and blues. At the moment, it's affecting all of them. Red, green, and blue, RGB. But you can separate out the reds, the greens, and the blues. Okay? And that just sort of shows you what's going on here. Now, like I said, what we're going to do is sort of an auto adjustment. And the auto adjustment is, there's a button right there, auto adjust. And we can actually see what happens here. So when I click on auto, it did a little bit, okay. So if I go back, this little eye here is handy. It shows the differences, okay. So it still has that yellow cast, okay. Not as good as we would hope, but it did do something. Now you could go in and sort of play with these. Apologize for my son in the background. You could go around in the back and try to adjust these here, but it doesn't always do a great job, okay? And you'll get used to doing this, but I'll show you a couple tricks as well. So to try a different style of sort of adjustment here, what you need to do is click on the auto again, but this time hold the Alt key. So I'm holding Alt and left clicking, and it actually brings up these auto color correction options. And so algorithms are different ways. It's like built-in automatic adjustment that will do certain steps to do things. You'll notice here it's on enhance brightness and contrast, and that didn't give us what we wanted. You could try the other ones. So if we click on that, you can see how they change. And I think this fine dark and light colors does the best. And you can right away see that this the wall that was sort of this yellowy color has lost that and has become more white. And his shirt and all the other things have lost that color cast. And so that looks good. Oftentimes these two work well. You might just want to, you can always find if you're doing a sort of a set of photos that, it's always doing this, you can save it as default. I'm going to do that so that whenever you click auto, instead of defaulting to the enhanced brightness and contrast, it will do the fine dark and light colors. So you get OK. And you can kind of see in here what's happened. It's adjusted the blues, the green, sorry, the reds, the greens, and the blues. And what's happening here, the blue has been adjusted the most. And the reason the blue has been adjusted the most is that the blue, the opposite of blue is yellow. So if I actually grab that and decrease it, you can see there comes back the yellow. Okay, and so that's what mostly got adjusted. The other pair there, red, goes with cyan. So if I pull that down, you can sort of see that bluey, greeny cyan come in. And then the other one, so yellow and blue. Green, the opposite is magenta. Okay, so green, and if I pull this down, you can see that, so that pinky color. Okay, and so that's making those adjustments there. So I think I'll just click auto again to make sure I put it back to how it was. And again, very quickly with the adjustment layer, you can see what a difference that made. And really, we didn't do any work per se. We just knew which button to press, knew which option to get, and we've created a much nicer image. Now, another thing you can do is sort of get in and make some adjustments to this already, to what's been done here. And so what I'm going to do is go to the blues, okay, because that's where most of the yellow was, right? Where we're removing the yellow. And maybe around here on her face, it's still a little bit yellow. So what I can do is grab this guy here, okay, so this little tool, and I can go, it's like an eyedropper, and I can go and pick. Now, as I move along here, you're sort of looking at my cursor on the left, but then also onto the graph on the right, and you can see that as I choose different spots, it actually picks different places on the curve. If I go into a really dark spot, you'll notice it's far down on the left side towards the blacks, and then if I find somewhere that's pretty white, you'll see that it's way up on the right side. So if I go on her face there, sort of on this left side of her face, you can see it sort of in the middles, and I can click, and what you'll notice is two things. First off, I've got a different cursor. Okay, and I'll get back to that in a second. And on the right side, you can see where there's now a point there that we can adjust. And so what I'm going to do is I can move it up or down. So you can see here, as I pull it down, of course, I'm adding yellows, which is not what I want to do. So I'm actually going to pull that point up a little bit and get a little bit more of that blue away. So now her face is less so. So again, you can go back and check. Obviously, the change is huge. We can't unfortunately just see that little bit, but you can see that we've got quite an improvement in that photo. So we'll do one more adjustment here, or we'll do one more style of adjusting. We'll do the same adjustment here. So what I'm going to do is take us back to the original. So there we are. Oof, looks so much better. And what I'm going to do is take this eyedropper here. And so this says here, sample the image in image to set a gray point. And so what you want to do is just click around on things that you think should be gray. And so for example, this lady's sweater, you can click on that and voila, you've got some changes, okay? Maybe his shorts, let's check that out. So you can go back and forth and sort of see. I think even his shorts did a little bit better of a job of pulling away that yellow, and even more still there. And so you can go around and select different things. Obviously, if you choose something that's not sort of that neutral grayish color like that, you're going to get something really weird, okay? Because you're basically telling the computer, oh, that was sort of grayish color, okay? But obviously, you can just go around and click and find, the adjustment that does the best. Maybe that's it, right? Depending on what you want. So again, that's a really quick way of you adjusting the curves without having to get in there manually and doing it. I mean, you could still go back and again say, oh, okay, that's still a little bit yellow there right on the side of her face, and making sure you're on the blue, and then make that adjustment, right? So there, we could just pull that out a little bit more. Okay, so you don't want to make her too cyanotic, right? Too bluish there, but just pulling out that yellow to get something like that. All right, so we'll sort of finish up the video there. What I'd like you to do is try to find some images that have a color cast to them. So again, you have to sort of go into Google and play around there and see what you can find, and then see what you can do to have your before and after, okay? And again, this might, for your company, you're given a bunch of photos, ooh, they don't look quite as good as you want on the brochure or whatever the case is. And magically, right, you can spend a minute, 5 minutes at the most in Photoshop and make the picture look a lot better. All right, so go and try to find some images with ColourCast in them and see what you can do by doing an auto adjustment, playing around with the curves, and creating some better looking photos.